climate change on display for us right now? Is there other causes behind this?
Here's CNN's chief climate alarmist here to tell us that climate alarmism doesn't actually exist.
Just into CNN, a dire warning about the state of the planet. A new UN report warns the climate time bomb is ticking and the world is running out of time to avoid catastrophe.
So that assessment comes from the world's most authoritative body on climate change, which says the Earth is going to pass this critical warning threshold now much earlier than expected. I mean, we're staring it down. They're talking about the early 2030s. CNN chief climate correspondent Bill Ware is here. So please tell me we can stop this, Bill.
Oh, I'd love to tell you that. We have to believe that, and we can. And that's really the takeaway, is that the tools are in our hands. There are no miracles needed when it comes to technology. It's all right here. It's all about political will. But let me explain the context here. Every year, thousands of peer-reviewed papers around the world look at the ice or the clouds or the penguins or every little aspect of our changing planet. The IPCC, these are scientists from 195 countries, have to synthesize all that information. Their governments have to approve the language, and then they put this report together and give it to lawmakers in time for this next COP that's coming up in the United Arab Emirates. And it is the most unequivocal. There's no such thing as climate alarmism anymore. The time bomb is ticking, but we have the guide on how to defuse the bomb right in our hands right here.
The time bomb. We've been hearing about this ticking time bomb for a long time, and but you know, and you imagine the maybe the old-fashioned cartoon time bomb with the long wick that's it's going down and it's going to explode, or maybe you imagine the actual digital timer on it. And, you know, we have to find a way to diffuse it. You have to cut like the old '90s action flicks. Someone's got to cut the red wire and the blue wire. But they keep extending the time. That's the interesting thing. They keep extending. It's about to go off. It's always just about to go off. And then we're all going to be dead. I will say, you know, I think if you're CNN, they've got their chief climate reporter, and he says climate alarmism doesn't exist. So because no matter what you say about the climate, whatever alarming statements you make, it's true. And so it's not alarmism. That's the point that he's trying to make. We really are on the verge of an apocalypse. Nothing alarmist about it, he claims. Well, I think if that's the case, I mean, really the most powerful statement and the most worthwhile thing that CNN could do is to just shut down entirely. You think about all the carbon emissions, think about all the energy that is used just to keep a cable news channel on the air 24/7. Think about the carbon footprint. And if we're on the verge of planetary destruction because of this, then I think you have no choice morally but to shut down operations entirely. And that would be a statement to the rest of the world. I mean, that, if you want to say something that's meaningful, that would do it. You say, we're going to shut down completely because we can no longer contribute to the coming apocalypse. I want to hear from Don Lemon and all the rest. We're shutting down. We're going to go live in the woods, in caves, and we're gonna subsist on berries and locusts like John the Baptist in the wilderness, and that's how we're gonna live our lives because we cannot contribute any more to the coming planetary extinction level event. That would be a statement, or maybe it really wouldn't be a statement at all because nobody would notice even if they did that. This is CNN that we're talking about. Imagine you're a climate expert working for a major news network when one day, out of nowhere, Hillary Clinton announces that MAGA Republicans are causing the world to get hotter simply by voting the wrong way and by cooking too many cheeseburgers, I guess. She says these MAGA Republicans are lighting the planet on fire. They're causing the warmest summer in the history of the world, going back billions of years, even before we had thermometers to measure this kind of thing. That's how dangerous these MAGA Republicans are. Well, last week we went into great detail about how Hillary Clinton sounded like a Mesoamerican shaman when she made all those claims. But if you're a climate expert in the mainstream media, you can't laugh at what she said, as we did. You can't just move on. Instead, you have to run cover for Hillary Clinton because she's effectively your boss. You revere her. Therefore, you have to go out on television and dutifully assert with maximum confidence that, yes, Hillary is right. We are breaking temperature records right now, and that's happening specifically because of man-made climate change that's intensified in recent years. That's the party line. And indeed, like lemmings, all the big networks came out and said exactly that, one by one. Here's ABC News, for example, giving Hillary some much-needed backup. Watch.
And heat isn't just affecting the U.S. Scientists say July is set to be the Earth's hottest month in recorded history. Let's bring in Chief Meteorologist Ginger Z and host of the 538 Politics podcast, Galen Druk, for more on the heat and how it's impacting voters. Thank you both for being here. Ginger, it's been a busy July for you. You and your team have been reporting on this all throughout the month. What sticks out to you after looking at the heat that's affected across the country, but also around the world?
Right, and that's what you have to remember. This is global warming. It is global heat. And so there are people in the Midwest or Northeast and we're like, well, most of the summer's been okay. Like, it really hasn't been anything above average. Yes, we've had the desert Southwest having incredible heat. We're talking consecutive heat. But Europe, Asia, so many pockets that add up globally to the hottest July on record.
Is this climate change on display for us right now? Are there other causes behind this? And do we know what the domino effect is of having the heat be this high for so long in so many places?
Right. So, yes, the answer is yes. There is human influence for sure. We knew this year was going to be hot because of El Nino, but to see it turn out this way has the remarkable footprint of human amplified climate change. And that's what the scientists were saying. Virtually impossible to see records obliterated like this without human influence.
Well, the scientists are clear, say the climate experts. We just experienced the hottest July in the history of the planet because we're polluting too much. Our carbon emissions are changing the weather in real time. Notice they have the political analyst literally sitting right next to the climate expert just to underscore the point that this whole segment is about scaring as many Democrats as possible so that they vote in the next election. At this point, Joe Biden needs all the help he can get. But wait a minute, skeptical viewers might ask, aren't there other periods in world history when temperatures have spiked long before humans and even the dreaded MAGA Republicans existed? Could we be witnessing something caused by nature instead of Trump voters? ABC News' expert anticipated that you might start thinking along those lines, and here was her reply to that.
And with temperature has always gone CO2, so it follows it. Here's the difference. That peak of temperature, which is the blue kind of around 100 and some thousand years ago, that was with volcanic and solar interruption. That's the thing that has driven CO2 prior to now. Right now, it's not the sun, and it hasn't been volcanoes to that degree. It has been following one line on the graphic, and that is CO2 and greenhouse gas emissions by humans.
So the expert is acknowledging that there have been periods throughout world history when the climate has gotten much warmer, obviously, but she says that was due to highly unusual events like volcanic interruption. And we don't have that right now, the expert says, at least not to any significant degree. So she concludes that Trump voters must be the problem. Is that true? Admittedly, I'm not a climate scientist or an Aztec shaman or any kind of expert on the weather whatsoever. I can walk outside my house and see what the weather is, so I can do that, but that's about it. I do, however, pay attention to the news, and I couldn't help but notice something that ABC's crack climate team somehow forgot to mention. Just a year and a half ago, this happened in the Pacific Ocean.
Tonight, jaw-dropping images of an extraordinarily powerful and now deadly volcano erupting in the Pacific Ocean. This video, captured a day before an even larger eruption of the same underwater volcano, rocked the island nation of Tonga, triggering tsunami alerts across the globe. The scope of that eruption best seen from space. Satellite images showing a massive cloud of smoke spewing in all directions and as high as 12 miles in the air, the most powerful volcanic activity in at least 3 decades.
The tsunami advisory in effect.
Its stunning power felt across 5 continents, the entire west coast of the United States and Alaska under a tsunami alert for most of the weekend. In Peru, 2 people drowning after abnormally high waves slammed ashore. Ports from Japan to New Zealand littered with sunken fishing boats, the powerful waves tossing them like toys.
And they pop their heads out of their boat to see a red catamaran going over the top of my boat. So that is a force of nature there.
Shockwaves in Central Europe more than 10,000 miles away. The before and after images are staggering. The force of the blast nearly wiping this uninhabited island off the map.
Well, that somehow went unnoticed over at ABC News. An underwater volcano erupted in Tonga. It was so big you could see it from space. The entire west coast of the U.S. was put under a tsunami warning. According to NASA, which wrote up a detailed analysis of the event last August, the eruption caused a sonic boom that circled the globe twice. The The eruption also, quote, blasted an enormous plume of water vapor into Earth's stratosphere, enough to fill more than 58,000 Olympic-sized swimming pools, according to NASA. Now, that's significant because, according to NASA, volcanic eruptions normally cool the planet by emitting a lot of dust particles that reflect sunlight away from the planet. That didn't happen this time, and as one NASA scientist put it, quote, we've never seen anything like it. So what's the upshot? Well, water vapor traps heat. It's the single most abundant greenhouse gas that exists in the atmosphere. It's responsible for half of the greenhouse gas effect on the planet. So here was the prediction from NASA as of last August. So this was last summer, and this is what they wrote, quote, the sheer amount of water vapor could be enough to temporarily affect Earth's global average temperature. So they were predicting last summer that temperatures would rise because of the volcano. That seems like a major detail to leave out of literally every single news report on historic climate change this summer. It's like reporting on wildfires without mentioning that they were caused by arsonists, something that our news media also does regularly. So think about how extraordinary this is. A volcano just sent a massive amount of water vapor into the air in what scientists are calling a once-in-a-lifetime event, which scientists also say has clear ramifications for the climate, and they don't even talk about it on ABC News. Democrats in the party of science blame MAGA Republicans, and nobody in the mainstream media corrects them or mentions the billions of gallons of water vapor that were just spewed into the atmosphere by a volcano. A volcano that, by the way, I don't think you can blame on man-made climate change. That's when they'll start talking about this, is when they can figure out a way to blame us for the volcano. Maybe the MAGA Republicans set it off. Maybe they, I don't know, threw a bomb down into the underwater volcano somehow. I don't know. To be clear, this is not some temporary spike in temperature that NASA was talking about. According to NASA, quote, excess water vapor injected by the Tonga volcano could remain in the stratosphere for several years. That, again, was NASA's projection in August of last year. By December of 2022, it appeared that NASA's prediction had been vindicated. Research published that month by the Meteorological Research Institute, NASA, and the University of Chicago confirmed that the eruption last year increased the massive water vapor in the stratosphere by 13%, which is a huge amount. And this water vapor will remain in the stratosphere for years, just as NASA had originally predicted. The researchers added that, quote, the unique nature and magnitude of global stratospheric perturbation by the Tonga eruption ranks it among the most remarkable climatic events in the modern observation era. 7 months later, this past July, the research meteorologist Ryan Mao had this response to the fallout from the eruption, quote, based upon the last few months, it seems the effect of the eruption on global temperatures may have been greatly underestimated. And Ryan Mao was right. Just about 2 weeks ago, yet another paper came out on the eruption. This one was for researchers at Caltech's Jet Propulsion Laboratory. This paper found that the eruption sent 40 trillion gallons, not billions, but trillion gallons of seawater into the stratosphere. What the researchers called an unprecedented water vapor injection. Last week, Dr. Robert Rode, the lead scientist at the independent nonprofit Berkeley Earth, reviewed these recent findings. He concluded that, quote, as a powerful greenhouse gas, this water may have contributed to recent warming. Now, these seem like relevant developments, especially if you're covering the MAGA heat wave that's setting the United States on fire. And yet virtually every major media outlet is ignoring this. Being a husband, father, and host of my own show means life never slows down. Imagine trying to eat 31 different fruits and vegetables every day. Sounds miserable and time-consuming. Frankly, I just don't want to do all that. I'd rather go get something deep-fried and unhealthy sometimes. Damn it. But with Balance of Nature fruits and veggies, there's never been a more convenient dietary supplement to ensure you get a wide variety of fruits and vegetables every day with 31 different whole fruit and vegetable ingredients. Balance of Nature takes fruits and vegetables, they freeze-dry them, turn them into a powder, and then turn them into a capsule from there. You take your fruit and veggie capsules every day, and your body knows what to do with them. Simple as that. Go to balanceofnature.com, use promo code Walsh for 35% off your first order as a preferred customer. Plus, get a free bottle of fiber and spice. That's balanceofnature.com, promo code Walsh. Here's someone that you should meet. This is Aisha Sadika. She's a UN climate advisor. As Libs of TikTok pointed out yesterday, posted this video. This woman works at the UN and yet is not only a radical climate change alarmist, but is also rabidly anti-white. And maybe the word yet is not necessary there, as if there's some sort of conflict between, working at the UN and having this attitude. Everyone at the UN does. But anyway, take a listen.
I say this because the climate crisis is not passive. The climate crisis is not a result of natural disasters. It's actually man-made. It's a result of...
I'll say it again, because I think they missed it.
The climate crisis is man-made. And it's not just man-made, it's white man-made. It is a result of capitalism, years of colonialism, years of racial oppression. And so, if you want to get involved, the way that we save our planet is when we protect the most vulnerable communities among us. And this includes Black trans women. This includes indigenous peoples. And this is why it includes children and young folk. Because when we protect them, then we can protect everybody else.
Okay, so you know what really gets me about this? Well, first of all, it's just not true. You know, it's not true on several different levels, but on the racial end of it, most of the air and water pollution in the world comes from Asia. So she says that climate change is not only a man-made problem, but a white man-made problem. Well, most of the air and water pollution on Earth comes from Asia. In fact, we talked about it recently, that one Asian country has 83 of the top 100 polluting cities, like the cities that have the most pollution. One Asian country has 83 of those top 100 cities, and that's the country of India. So, you know, that's Asia, and then Africa is the second worst offender when it comes to water pollution specifically, which means that the people that are destroying the planet, the worst offenders at destroying the planet, are non-white. So that's the first thing. But the second is, and I was thinking about this today, which is that if there could possibly be one advantage, if there could possibly be one positive, one little glimmer of a bright side to climate alarmism, which there is no advantage, okay, but if there could be one, it would be that climate alarmism, you would think and hope, would have at least, even though it's totally false and everything else, it would at least have a sort of unifying effect. You know, because if the planet is really doomed, if the climate apocalypse is on the horizon, then we're all screwed, right? We're all in the same sinking boat. It's like if there was an asteroid headed towards Earth, you know, an asteroid the size of Australia or something, headed towards Earth, we're all going to be vaporized. And that's what these people think climate change is anyway, basically. Well, then when it hits, we're all going to be equally dead. So maybe we can find some measure of unity in our shared sense of being totally screwed. Like I said, it's a very small silver lining, but you would hope that would be there. But we can't even get that from the climate alarmists. And the reason is that the climate alarmists, they filter their climate alarmism through the victim-oppressor narrative. So even this, even a planet-wide catastrophe, which they falsely believe is on the horizon, even that somehow becomes an us versus them thing. Everyone's going to die, and it's still like some people are more affected than others by this. And we know that's because this is all, of course, a left-wing phenomenon, and this is leftism. Seeing the world based on this calculation of victim versus oppressor. Which, by the way, there was another round of discussion. There's been another round of discussion on social media this week about defining the word woke. And I think this time, Libs of TikTok, Chaya Raichik, she was giving a speech and she was asked for a definition of woke, and she didn't immediately offer one that is totally cohesive. And so that becomes, at least in the clip that's circulating, I'm sure it's largely out of context. And that became another round of like, see those conservatives, they can't even define the word woke. Well, part of the reason why it can be hard to define is because we're talking about, it's an ideology. You know, an ideology, these are ideas, okay? This is not like being unable to define the word woman. Woman is a biological category. It's a physical thing, okay, with the physical definitions. Ideas are not that. Ideas change. They can be, and with something like wokeness, it's a whole bunch of really confused ideas. And the ideas themselves also change. That's one of the hallmarks of a woke person, is that they could say something 1 minute and then 5 minutes later say completely the opposite, and seem to believe both of those things at the same time. And so when people look at that, and we can see this pattern, and we see like there's this category of people who have this confused idea of the world, but trying to define what that confusion is a little difficult sometimes. But it is it's perfectly possible to define. Has many defining elements, and if someone presses you for a definition, a one-sentence definition, you could do worse than this, which is seeing the entire world through this lens of victim versus oppressor. All of reality, every aspect of reality itself is defined by the victim versus oppressor dynamic. I just want to read this headline to you, okay? Here's the headline. It is attention grabbing, at least it was for me. Climate change is messing with time more than previously thought, scientists find. So that's the headline. The headline is that climate change is so bad, and we're going to find out just how bad it is, okay? But it's so bad that it's not just warming up the earth and it's going to drown us all and all that. It's actually warping time itself. Our very conception of time is being changed because of climate change. It's a big study, and it's a big important thing. It's a big headline. So let's find out a little bit about this. How could that be the case? Okay. The impacts of human-caused climate change are so overwhelming that they're actually messing with time, according to new research. Polar ice melt caused by global warming is changing the speed of the Earth's rotation and increasing the length of each day, in a trend set to accelerate over the century as humans continue to pump out planet heating pollution, according to a study published Monday in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. And yet another sign of the huge impact humans are having on the planet. Quote, "This is a testament to the gravity of ongoing climate change," says a geophysicist at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory and a report author. "The number of hours, minutes, and seconds making up each day on Earth are dictated by the speed of the Earth's rotation, which is influenced by a complex knot of factors." And there's some science there which may or may not interest you. These include processes in the planet's fluid core, the ongoing impact of the melting of huge glaciers after the last ice age, as well as melting polar ice due to climate change. Okay, so the climate change is making the day longer. The day is getting longer and longer. So if you've been feeling that, if you've been perceiving that it feels like the days just drag on and on and on, it's true because of climate change. That is all the fault of climate change. But how long are these days getting because of climate change? Well, you have to read about, 10 paragraphs down before you get to this. The team of international scientists looked at a 200-year period between 1900 and 2100 using observational data and climate models to understand how climate change has affected day length in the past and to project its role in the future. Climate change fueled sea level rise caused the length of a day to vary between 0.3 and 1 milliseconds in the 20th century. Over the past 2 decades, however, the scientists calculated an increase in day length of 1.33 milliseconds per century, significantly higher than at any other time in the 20th century. So that was it. That's what it's all leading to. It's making the day longer. It's a big problem. Big enough problem, we need a study about it. We need a CNN headline about it. And how is it affecting the day? Well, it's making the day longer it's not even the day. It's increasing by 1.33 milliseconds per century. So by my quick napkin calculation here, with time changing this quickly due to climate change, a day will be a full second longer in about 90,000 years. Right? I think that's how it works out. So 90,000 years from now, people, if there's any people left on Earth, are going to be days will be eternal. They're going to linger on forever. The day will never end. days will drag on and on and on for a full second longer. They'll have to endure that additional second per day in 90,000 years about. But this is actually a perfect example of what we were just discussing, that it may seem like you have to be crazy to believe that, to believe in all the apocalyptic predictions that we hear constantly about climate change. It may seem like only a nutcase would believe this stuff, but that's not true. All you have to be is someone who is surrounded by the propaganda all the time, has no real doesn't have anyone in their life who's a voice of sanity, not anybody that they listen to anyway. And on top of that, be someone who's not exactly a critical thinker. That's all. And that describes like a lot of people. You don't have to be a maniac. And if you're in that group and you see a headline like this, and of course you don't read on, you don't keep reading and do the math and all that. They don't want you to do that. You just the headline's all you need. That it's even affecting our perception of time. That's how bad climate change is. An entire second in 90,000 years.